your microphone? All right, perfect. Yeah, we are live on air. Amazing. Welcome to ONedSsChat. We do apologize for being a tad bit late this morning. We've been having some technical difficulties with Hangouts, but as you can see, we've got lots of people joining us today, and we're so thrilled that you are here as well. I want to start with a brief overview of ONedStudentChat. This is a student-led Twitter chat that connects K-12 students across Ontario and now around the world. We are hoping to discuss topics and questions related to character education, social justice, and citizenship. ONedStudentChat creates opportunities for students to network with others, gain perspective, build relationships with new learning partners in a literacy-rich learning environment, experience social media as a powerful platform for learning, and establish a positive digital footprint. So thank you again for joining us today. We have recently expanded our ONedStudentChat community to include classes across the country and anywhere else in the world who want to join in these really exciting conversations. So I am going to turn things over to Sam. If you could walk us through our tech talk, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, sure. All right, so if you're watching us in YouTube, which is an option, if you just tap the YouTube icon, you will notice that there's a comment space to your right, which is a great way to share your own thoughts and ideas and add your own thinking to get involved in the conversation. Or you can also watch the video from the website, chat with us and other participants on Twitter. On Twitter, you follow the hashtag ONedSsChat to read the ideas, thoughts, and questions shared by others. You can also use that same hashtag to add your own thinking and get involved in the conversation. If you ask questions, we'll bring them to the panel. And please remember that the audience in the chat is K-12, so your comments and questions should be appropriate for all of you.
Great, thank you so much, Sam. We're going to move on to introductions. We are missing a number of panelists who will hopefully be able to join us shortly. Sam, actually, I'm going to go ahead and start with you because you are joining us from somewhere warm and sunny. Well, usually warm and sunny.
Yeah, so I am Sam Nolan. I go to North Perth Westfield Elementary School in Ontario, and currently I'm in Florida, Orlando, and it's sunny and warm.
Yes, and we are all very envious. And how about Erin from our ONedStudentChat team?
Hi everyone, I'm Erin. I go to Cardinal Carter Catholic High School here in Aurora, Ontario, and I am an International Baccalaureate student.
Great, thank you. And Jen?
Hi everyone, my name is Jennifer Cassatod. I am a teacher librarian at Cardinal Carter Catholic High School, a co-founder of this chat with these amazing students. Looking forward to the conversation.
Wonderful. And I do want to introduce the expert panelist who's joining us today. Allie, if you could take a minute and tell us a little bit about yourself and your expertise, and then we'll introduce the other students who are joining us today.
Sure, thank you. So my name is Aliénor. People call me Ali. I go to U of T. I'm a economics and public policy student, but I've been an environmental activist for a very long time now. So I started in France around 10 years old, and I've been doing a lot of that since. And I guess I started with environmental activism as biodiversity protection and wildlife protection. And then more recently, in the past, I'd say 3 years, I've been going towards what we call like climate justice, which is understanding why climate change matters to human beings and why it's not just a nature thing, but it's a human rights issue.
Wonderful. Thank you. We're so thrilled to have you here today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I now want to introduce, we have a student here from Ms. Curtis's class in Superior Greenstone District School Board, and Rafik is here. Rafik, I know we haven't had a chance to say hello yet because you popped in. Hopefully your mic is working. Do you want to say hello and tell us a little bit about yourself? Oh, your mic's off. Just click on your mic. There you go, you're all set.
Thank you. My name's Ruthwick, and I am from the SGDSB School Board, and I am really excited to be here. Yeah, this is like my first conference, like a live stream conference. And something about me is that I am really enthusiastic, and I am a bilingual person.
That's really exciting. So Ruthwick, if you would like to, what other languages do you speak?
I can understand French, like a couple sentences that Madame speaks, and I know Hindi and Marathi, Gujarati, Punjabi, and English. So I can understand 5 languages and like kind of speak French, so 6 languages.
Wow, that is incredible. Well, we are so thrilled that you were able to join us today. Thank you. And last but not least, we have two students joining us from Paulo de Bueno's class in the TDSB. We have Lyndon and Allison. Would you like to say hello, Lyndon, and introduce yourself? And then we'll hear from Allison.
My name is Lyndon, and I come from a country called Uganda. It's in East Africa, and I just moved in December, and our class just started a new topic on climate change, and we just learned about a girl who's 13-year-old in Sweden who is against climate change, and she's trying to make a change with her movement called Friday for Future.
Right on, and we're going to be talking about that today. And it sounds to me like you're ready to share some thoughts on that when we get to that question. Allison, do you want to introduce yourself? I'm not sure where your microphone is, but if you could make sure that you speak right into it, just because your voice is a little quiet.
Okay, hi, my name is Allison. I am also doing the questions about climate change.
Now, Allison, honey, we can't hear you. Is the microphone on your headset? If so, can you hold it up to your mouth just so we can hear you nice and clearly?
Okay. Hi, my name is Allison. I'm also doing the questions about climate change.
Okay, awesome. And Allison, what grade are you in?
5.
5. Awesome. Wow, we are so excited. What a great panel we've got here today. And if we happen to have Miss Rola Tipsharani's class was going to join us as well. So if hopefully they'll be able to pop in at some point. But at this point, I'm going to turn things over. Jen, do you mind going through the Tweet and Talk norms?
Actually, I think Erin is going to take us through the norms.
Perfect. Even better. All right, Erin.
Sure. So my internet connection's a little bit off right now, so I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yep, you're fine.
But our norms are we have 20 minutes to discuss one or more questions. Please be mindful that this chat is open to students in kindergarten to grade 12, and active participation from classes who are watching is strongly encouraged. All comments made during the chat should be positive and productive. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, so please note that. And although you may not agree with something someone has said, we ask that when challenging an idea, you respectfully disagree with that idea and not the individual person.
Great. Thank you so much, Erin. I appreciate you taking us through those our Tweet and Talk norms. And I should mention that those norms were created by our students, and they are really, really important. And we've done a fantastic job setting a really positive example all year long. So we're going to move into our second last chat of the year, believe it or not. And Sam, I'm going to ask you to introduce the first question, please.
All right, so our first question is, what is climate change and how is it affecting us?
Great, thank you. Who would like to start?
If you want me to, do you want to do it?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay, I can try. So climate change is kind of part of this broader ecological crisis that we have. So the fact that because of our consumptions and the way we live, we've transformed the way our planet works, and in a way that our atmosphere basically has been warming up, and that has been creating more extremes in the climate. So that's why we talk about global warming, but climate change, more extreme cold episodes and droughts and things like that. And I think the second part of your question was how it affects people, right? So I think it's going to affect people in many ways. We already see the natural disaster part, which I think is what we picture. But there's also going to be things like doctors talk about how epidemics are going to spread faster because of these warm temperatures, or insects are going to be developing that should not be in certain countries. So we're going to see a lot of these irregularities, and we won't, the dangerous part is that it's happening too fast and we don't have time to adapt to the ways we live, our systems, our bodies to these. And that's, I think, in a nutshell, why it's such a big threat to us right now.
Thank you for that. That was a great introduction to that question, that whole idea of what is climate change and how is it affecting us. Does someone want to add to what Ali said? Anybody? Sam, do you want to weigh in?
Yeah, climate change is definitely affecting people natural disaster wise and everything. It's also affecting the water levels because as the ice melts in the poles, the water's rising, which is causing more natural disasters, and it's just going to increase from this.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Yeah, and I know where we see a lot of the those changing water levels impacting different wildlife is especially up north in the Arctic and the polar bears. I know there's been a lot of press in the last few years about their environment slowly disappearing, and you see those pictures of lone polar bears, you know, floating on that small piece of ice out in the middle of the ocean with nowhere to go and no land in sight. And I think, you know, we see so many effects of climate change impacting wildlife, and those are often the stories that are told. And I think from the human perspective, we see those natural disasters, which are what's making the news. What's going on behind all of those catastrophic events is really what we're kind of diving into today. And Sam, you mentioned that, you know, rise in temperature, rise in water level. Ali, you were talking about, you know, the increase in temperature and how that is affecting the number of insects potentially, which carry disease. Ritvik, I would love to ask you what you think, if you want to explain your understanding of climate change and how you think it's affecting us.
I think climate change is like a really big issue, and it is the change climate patterns in our 5 atmosphere layers. And climate change, it also affects the insects, and the insects bring a lot of disease, which is harm to human life. And some of the animals and our natural habitats and the crops or the plants, they're getting affected too.
Right, and I want to. Can you actually go back and explain climate change? You were talking about. Can you just explain a little further your understanding of climate change? Because I think you hit on a few good points there.
Okay, so I was saying that like climate change is like it affects climate patterns in like a change apparent from the mid to late like from I researched on it a little bit last night, and it is from the 20th century. So like it is affecting the human life or the planet Earth from the 20th century.
Can you explain what you mean by climate patterns?
Well, climate patterns, it's like, so when the climate change happens, it affects our natural layer or the atmospheres, which are getting affected by the climate patterns. And yeah, I can't talk.
And so when those different layers in our atmosphere are affected by a rise or a fall in temperature, do you know what happens?
Yeah, I kind of know, but the most affected part in the world right now for climate change is the Alaska's glaciers. That's the most affected part right now.
And what's happening with the glaciers in Alaska?
They're melting really quick.
Okay, and then that's adding a lot of fresh water to salt water, right? And that affects the wildlife and our weather, right? And I think that's the piece that you were speaking to. You made some really great points. I want to move over to Erin or to Lyndon and Allison. Do you want to share some of your thoughts about climate change? Yeah, Lyndon, why don't we go to you and Allison? Can you turn your microphone on? Here, let me help you. I'm going to turn your microphone on, okay? Oh, I can't turn your microphone on. You're going to have to turn your microphone on. So at the very bottom of your screen, at the top of your screen, you're going to see a little microphone with a line through it. Can you just click on that? And while we wait for you to get organized, Erin, can you hop in and share your thoughts on climate change?
Yeah, for sure. So I think it's unfortunate that it's not being acknowledged as much as it should be. And I think that's why it's so great that we're having this chat. But I feel like a lot of people also are unaware of how severe or serious it is because we don't see it every day necessarily around us. Britvic mentioned, it is more prominent in the Alaska glacier. So I think it's really important for us to be educated on those topics and maybe read more articles or watch more videos on it to see how serious it is. And I think, like you mentioned, the change in weather again is very serious because I know back in my home country, South Korea, the summers are getting extremely hot, up to maybe 35 degrees, and it's never been like that up until 4 or 5 years ago. So I think it's critical that we notice the changes now and try to fix it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry, you bring up a great point about the impact of climate change and how it's different in different places around the world and what different places around the world are experiencing as a result of climate change. Ali, I'm wondering if you can speak to that at all. Are you familiar with sort of what's happening in different parts of the world? I'm not, so I'm going to look to you, our experts.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first of all, I'm really impressed with all the points you brought up, all of you, because it's true that so the sea level problem, I don't know if you can hear, the sea level is something that we talk about. We never really understand the problem of the fact that it's a threshold. So once these glaciers melt, there's a lot that won't go back as glaciers. There's just, so I was really impressed with that. And I think, about sea levels, what could happen in the countries that are very low in terms of altitude and very low land, like we often talk about Bangladesh being one of them, is that they are directly at threat. So they've already experienced quite a bit of flooding, and they'll be experiencing more of that. And on the other hand, places like, Canada, I don't know if you saw the most recent report, they were talking about how Canada was warming up twice as fast as the rest of the world. I'm not sure how accurate in terms of, this might be just a big headline, but in general, it is true that in Canada, because we do have a very particular climate where we have these extremes already. We do have weather that fluctuates a lot. Just imagining that it's going to fluctuate more means that we have to think, can we survive temperatures that are just so low, and on the other hand so high? And then in other places, I think like in the Middle East, what climate change is going to mean for them is on the opposite, just droughts, but extremely severe droughts. And they've already had water-related wars and issues and absolute human suffering. And the fact that climate change will make these worse. So there's going to be more water in some places and way less in others. I think, that's kind of the patterns, is that some places, it's usually we're just going to see more extremes of whatever they have right now. That's the general pattern.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. That was, I appreciate, and I'm sure the students on panel too appreciate just getting a more global understanding and perspective there. Lyndon, are you able to get your mic working? We'd love to hear from you. So look on the very top of your screen, just move the mouse around on your computer, and you're going to see a little toolbar across the top of your screen, and you're going to see a microphone. It's the second one in on the left. If you just click on that microphone, you'll be able to turn it on. You see it?
I'm just going to jump in for a second. I'm going to share the link to the ONED student chat hashtag. But this morning I was reading an article about a woman. She was a chiefess and in an island, and I can't remember the name of the island, but she said, when we talk about climate change, we often talk about the environment, but what we have to remember too is that it affects people. So people who rely on sea ecosystems, who live by the ocean, who, are completely, their culture and their way of life is completely being impacted by some of the changes in climate. So I will share that to the hashtag today.
That's great. Thanks, Jen. And is there anything on Twitter at the moment that you want to bring in? No? Okay. And I think, Lyndon, you're all set there. I can see that your mic's... Oh, go ahead, Jen. Did you want to add something?
There is Neil Scott on YouTube said, I think sometimes we need to reframe our thoughts around climate change. Often we talk about saving the planet. However, the planet would survive climate change. It's us, the people, that need saving. And that's such a really good point connected to what I just shared. Thank you so much, Neil.
Yeah, that is a great point. Thank you for bringing that in. Okay, Lyndon, remember to speak right into your microphone so we can hear your great ideas, okay?
Okay.
Perfect. Okay, so tell us, what is climate change and how do you think it's affecting us?
Climate change is the global warming of the planet, and the climate change currently it's just making our weather more unpredictable and extremely dangerous. And places like the Sahara Desert, and they're just getting hotter and hotter, while places like the Philippines, they're just getting flooded more with water. There are places where the water should be equally divided, and like like they said, it's not us. It's not the planet that needs saving. It's us who need saving, and it practically just means that we should be using cleaner energy rather than fossil fuels that pollute the air. More they make it just warmer, and it just makes it unpredictable. Today you see it snowing, tomorrow you have a heat wave. Who knows what's next? So you'd rather be able to predict the weather rather than try and make it more unpredictable by just even driving your car outside, going stopping by the gas station. Then after your tailpipe starts bringing out smoke. That just makes the weather worse. And you're busy complaining about climate change. You'd rather use an electric car than those cars that use fossil fuels and burn all types of pollutants into the air.
Wow, that was amazing. You covered so many big ideas related to climate change. Very, very well done. Thank you. That almost summarized all of the great ideas that were shared for question 1. Nicely done. Allison, do you want to add something as well?
No, thanks.
Okay, we'll catch you up, and we'll come back to you for a different question. Sam, did you want to move on to question number 2?
Sure. Our second question today is, do you think Greta Thunberg, is that how you say it?
Yep, Greta Thunberg.
All right. Initiative hashtag Fridays for Future or hashtag Climate Strike is helping climate change? Why or why not?
All right, who would like to start things off? Rudvik, would you like to start things off?
Can you please repeat the question, Sam? I didn't really get the question.
Sure.
Do you think the initiative for Fridays for Future or Climate Strike is helping climate change? Why or why not?
So there's a girl named Greta Thunberg, and she started this whole movement where students are walking out on strike to voice their feelings and their thoughts about climate change. So, sorry, I interrupted you. I feel like you were ready.
No, that's okay. That just explained me what the question was about.
Okay.
So I think it really affects like the government, and the government should start making electric cars, like Paolo said. That he made a really good point about that, and I think it really affects, and it also lets other people know that we're going through climate change, and we need to make a change about it, and we need to like do something about it. And by going on a strike, they let people know, but just by going on a strike, it doesn't like really help. They're not like doing anything, but they're actually making a point to the community. And I think like going on a strike, and after going on a strike, they should like do something for their community, which which affects climate change and which prevents happening climate change.
Okay, thanks, Rutvik. Erin, I know you wanted to comment.
Yep. So I think the biggest thing about the Fridays for Future initiative that caught my eye was the fact that it was started by a very young student and led by students, and I think that's critical because us young people are the people that are going to have to continue to fix climate change and that need to continue to bring attention to it. And I think the fact that it was started by a student helps other students globally understand the importance of it and lead initiatives that are going to determine our future. So I think it's very important that it was a student-led initiative.
Yeah, I agree. I see you nodding there, Ali. Do you want to jump in? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I'm nodding that much because so I don't know if the rest of you know, but the reason maybe that's the reason I'm on this call, but I'm the Fridays for Future Toronto organizer, I guess, and so I think it's a really relevant question because the soul of this movement, I think, is students learning, kind of usually by their own research and their own initiative, or sometimes really great teachers that put these things forward. They're learning about basically their future being destroyed, right? That's what's happening. But a lot of these students, they're still quote unquote stuck in school, and so they might feel powerless, and a lot of them can't vote. And so I think it kind of shows that the movement was just kind of like them crying out and being like, no, like we're not going to just witness our future kind of go down. And so that's why I think it was so powerful and why I wanted to help it so much. And I do think you were really right there, though, that while it's so important to go on strikes, and I think it's important because maybe it gets the parents thinking, parents that are not inclined to think about climate change could start, understanding the importance of doing these community initiatives. The teachers are crucial in this part because they're the ones that are in contact with people so much. But I also think you're right that striking in itself, and I always try to explain that to people that are asking me, so what's your plan? And I'm like, striking in itself is not going to reduce our emissions. Striking is more of a way to tell other generations, and most importantly, governments, like, we are watching you and we are really trusting you with our futures right now. So please don't mess this up. But I do think you were right, Ludwig, is that after a strike, you need to go back home and think, what am I doing? What am I encouraging others to do? Because that's really important. I think it spreads, this kind of like positive, sustainable life really spreads. I've seen it around me. And then what are you asking your parents, your teachers to do about it too? So it's a kind of like, I think it's the surface of what needs to happen, but it's definitely not the end goal. And that's something we know when we organize it too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what I'm hearing you say is that there are multiple layers when it comes to our conversations and, of course, taking action. And there are lots of different ways we can take action. And what I'm hearing you say is that it's important to be involved in more ways than one if we really want to make that change. Sam, I want to turn things over to you, and then I'm going to move over to Allison. So, Sam?
All right, yeah, I didn't prepare much for this, but yeah, I think Fridays for Future, it is helping spread the word about all the climate change and stuff. It might not exactly be helping because there's a difference between telling and doing, right? I think people are trying to help, but it's going to take a lot more than 5 people to change this worldwide problem that we're having.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, Sam, to your point, sharing your voice is, it's a good starting point if you don't know where to start.
Yeah.
But I think to Ali's point, we don't want to just stop there, right? We want to make sure that now moves us forward into action. Allison, we'd love to hear from you. Your microphone is off, so if you can just turn it on at the top of your screen, you just have to click on it. Perfect. You're all set.
Okay. So what's the question again?
The question is about the Fridays for Future movement, Greta Thunberg's initiative, and we're asking whether or not you think those climate strikes, the student climate strikes, are actually helping climate change. Why or why not?
Well, I think Fridays for Future is helping climate change because Greta Thunberg is inspiring many people around the world, including students. And she's telling us not to just talk about it, but to stop it.
Okay, and when all of those students walk out together, it sends a really powerful message, doesn't it, Allison?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does, because people pay attention, right? It's on social media, it's on the news, and that draws a lot of attention to the cause. I know, Jen, you had some things that you wanted to bring in as well.
Well, I was just going to say, Mr. De Bono's class spoke about climate change affecting us all. So that first question, but the idea that Canada has been making targets since the early 1990s, which is what they researched, but has never met them. And so I know that with the United Global Goals now, those are targets that we're now working towards. And when you add that to the climate strikes, I think that awareness will unify lots of different voices and lots of different people towards action. So that's where that connection comes into what it is that we're talking about here. And you're right, Sam, 5 people isn't going to make a difference. But I think the last I heard, Greta's movement, it encompassed 1.6 million kids worldwide, which is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's hard not to pay attention when you have numbers like that. Yeah,
kids and their parents.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I know I was in a video call with a friend of mine, and her daughter came home, and she'd just been out on that climate strike at her school, and I said to her, why did you walk out? And she talked so passionately for probably 5 minutes before she even took a breath about how this is impacting her. And I was blown away at her level of conviction and commitment, and that this was a starting point for her. But it was also, it opened up a door for her, to share her voice and then to look for other ways that she could make a difference. So really, really powerful. Sam, I'm just looking at the time, and we need to move on to question number 3, please.
All right. Yeah. So our third question is, what kinds of things are you or others doing around you to help the environment?
Okay. Ali, do you want to start us off? And then Rutvik will come to you, okay?
Okay. Sure. Yeah. So I think that flows really well with our previous thing. You have to do something about your individual life, and you have to do something about the system, because you can't single-handedly save the planet. And so I think in my individual life, I've done a lot of things. I don't know if you've heard what fast fashion is, but fashion and, H&M and Zara and things like that, they pollute enormously. And the fact that we change our clothes all the time, that is horrendous for the planet. So that I've stopped completely. I go thrift shopping, and I try to find things made locally. And I'm lucky to be in Toronto, so there's options. I went vegan, and so that's also something to keep in mind, is that the way you eat has a huge impact on your personal carbon footprint. So there's just a few individual things. There's kind of a middle ground where I've been involved in a lot of university things where I make people pledge. So we do these fun things like photo shoots, and they pledge to do something for 1 week or 1 month, or sometimes now it's been 6 months for some of them. And it starts with I'll never have a single-use plastic cup again, or a single-use bag. And then some of them actually pledge to go meatless Mondays for the rest of their lives. Or even, I'm trying to pledge to considerably reduce or stop my flying. So things like that, pledging that, and I really think it spreads. And then I think what I do more about the system is this Fridays for Future, and asking governments. And then I do something that's called deputations, and it's really fun. If some of you want to actually you can go to your city council, sometimes even your provincial government, and you can ask to speak on a specific topic that's going to be discussed by your elected representatives. And that's actually, for me, it really felt like this is what a democracy is. I could just go, and I said, listen, I'm not a politician, but these are my fears. These are my, recommendations. And, they listen. I don't know how far they listen, but a lot of us went. And so we asked that a specific plan in Toronto pass, and it was passed. I don't know if it's because of us, but that also is something that I really encourage people to do, is go right to your city councilors and do things like that, because we're in a democracy. We should take advantage of that.
Absolutely. And every voice matters.
Mm-hmm.
Every voice matters. Yeah, incredible. Thank you for sharing all of those amazing ideas. I hope that those of you who are listening or who will watch later find some inspiration in some of those ideas. And Rutvik, I'm sure you have even more. So tell us what you're doing.
So what we are planning to do, and as I mean me and my class, so we are planning for going on a strike too with all the grade 5-6s and us. So to let our community know that we're going through climate change and we need to make a difference and we need to stop it. And I was also thinking about hanging up posters on trees or something, stop climate change, it's harmful to our community and our planet Earth. So that's what I've been thinking to do.
That is amazing. And I love that you're talking about your personal goals, things you're going to do yourself, but things that you can also do with your class, right? Because you can take on a real leadership role there when you have that passion and that commitment, to make a change. Thanks, Rutvik. Erin.
Yep. So last year, actually, or 2 years ago, I did an online co-op program where I got to do a research topic of my choice under the STEM branch, and I actually chose to do it on how to make my life more eco-friendly. And what I did was I tracked all the amounts of garbage or plastics or things that I produced on a daily for 4 weeks, and I graphed it. And I obviously don't have it in front of me right now, but after looking at that, I realized the amount of garbage that myself alone produced within even just a week. So I tried to reduce that down to half the week after, and it kept building. And now even my family has adapted to it. We never really buy plastic water bottles anymore. We always use the reusable ones. My mom makes a lot of tea at home, so instead of buying buckets or plastic cups of water and such, we just boil water and then make like a giant batch of tea, and all of us just bring that on reusable water bottles. So that's another method we've been doing really often. One thing that I always also notice that a lot of companies worldwide are doing is that they're making metal straws, and it's almost trending on Instagram and other methods of social media. And I think that's really interesting to see that a lot of brands are encouraging using metal straws instead of plastic straws now.
Mm-hmm. So many really powerful ideas, Erin. Thank you. And I think what I really want to highlight is you taking the time to do that personal inventory, if you will, taking a look at your own consumption and the amount of waste that you produce, and then making changes based on the data that you collected. What a brilliant way to look at what differences you can make. Based on some of that self-research. So thank you for sharing that. Jen, I know you have something that you want to bring in from YouTube, and then Allison, we're going to come to you next, okay?
So I have Mr. De Buono sharing that their class realized that the garbage, their recycling actually went into the garbage at the end of the day. And so his class asked him, could you please take a daily blue box home with you? So that is what the class is doing. They realized that the recycling was actually going in the garbage, and they decided to do something about it, and their teacher helped support them by bringing the recycling home. So I wanted to share that. Thank you, Mr. De Buono.
Awesome. Thanks, Jen. All right, Allison, we'd love to hear from you. Yep, you just have to turn your mic on. Yep, perfect.
So me and my class and a lot of others, we're deciding to use reusable water bottles instead of plastic water bottles. A lot of people are trying to reduce their electricity use, to recycle more, to maybe we can reduce chopping trees. We can maybe reduce our use of fossil fuels. We can maybe reduce the pollution, and I think that's all I have to say.
Yeah, you gave those are a lot of big ideas, Allison, a lot of big ideas. and you know what, your voice, again, it matters, right? And when you take the time to share those things and your opinion, it does matter, and there are people that are listening. Sam, I want to come over to you. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Oh, a lot of it's been said already, but like a lot of things that we do is we make sure we recycle everything that can be recycled at home. I don't know what our school does with our recycling, and that's a good point. I've never seen a recycling bin outside. I'll have to look into that because I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, it's made me wonder too. Do all of those recycling bins get thrown in the garbage? And why might that be? Is it because there was an apple core on top, and the time that it would take to pick through the garbage that ended up in the recycling means it's just, from a time perspective, it ends up in the garbage. So I think that's something that a lot of people could take away and maybe look at their school. Are you sorting it properly? Is it actually ending up in the garbage? I think that's a great point, Sam.
I know that our old school had a recycling program. Every Friday there would be a class that went and collected all the recycling and sorted through it all. But then again, we had 100 kids at that school. Now we have 600.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It looks like you have a big task ahead of you when you return back to school.
Yeah.
Some research to do, some recon. Some research and some recon.
Yeah.
Ali, Ali, did you want to wrap things up today with any final thoughts? And then, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you have too much time about this, but I obviously, so mentioning recycling is a really important part because sometimes we think that's the thing that we can do. But it's important to know, as you know, that that's as long as like one thing is contaminated in the whole recycling bag, everything goes to the trash. That means a coffee cup had a bit more coffee or some oil was there, everything goes to the trash. So I think something we want to move forward as we're getting closer to that, you know, we have 10 years mark, is that we have to think about composting in schools, in homes, so much more, so much more. And we also have to think of just reducing the waste we produce in general, because we can't only just recycle it, we have to try to you know, stop buying these things that are going to have to end up in the recycling. And I know it's so hard for schools probably to tackle that because everybody just brings their individual things, but there's a huge educational thing to be done there. I think is thinking we can't produce waste and then try to sort it. We have to stop producing this excessive amount of waste. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, thank you so much. And you know, I'm looking at the time and I know we're over, but there's so many really incredible ideas and stories shared today. And this is such an important topic. So we do want to thank everyone who joined us today, who's watching live, and of course, those of you that are watching the recording of the session as you start to think about and reflect on some of the questions that we've put out for the month. There are 5 questions that you can find on our website at ONedStudentChat.com, and those will be the 5 questions we'll be discussing for the rest of the month during our slow chat. You can find us on Twitter at ONedStudentChat, and if you want to follow the conversation or get involved, we encourage you to use hashtag ONedStudentChats to ensure that your voice is heard and that everyone can find your ideas, questions, and comments in our thread. Please watch for details about our final OnEd Student Chat of the 2018-2019 school year. It's happening on May 14th at 10 a.m. The topic is to be determined, but we do hope to see you for our last chat. But of course, please join us for the rest of the month as we continue to talk about how we can save our environment and reflect on climate change. So thank you again for joining us, and we will see you online. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.